Mavericks are 3 wins away from making their first final since 2011, and it all started with them beating the Wolves 108 to 105. And despite what the final score says, I don't think it was that particularly close, especially with how either team looked. I thought the Mavericks looked like a much better team on both ends of the floor. Their offense was clicking way more to me, especially when the defense was set. You had Kyrie and Luka combining for 63 points. Their star players were looking comfortable getting whatever shot they wanted. And they did all of this without the 3-point variance, where they only made 6 threes and shot 24% from 3. Defensively, they made the Wolves work for their offense, where the only good looks that they generated was in early offense and in transitions, and everything else was just particularly bad to me on offense for the Wolves. So the Mavericks came out strong in this series. They came out strong, took that 1-0 lead, took a game on the road, and they just looked like a much better team. I don't know how much I expected the Mavericks to be like this. I did have them entering the playoffs to make the second round, but I had them losing in 7 against the Thunder. I don't think I was expecting this. I don't think I was expecting them to be 3 wins away from the finals. And especially looking this good on both ends, especially with how we've seen Kyrie look, particularly in that second half in the Clippers series, his defensive effort in the Thunder series, and how Luke has been looking more recently, where his shots, when his shots are falling, he's been looking like the Luka we know. But then it's also the defense. The defense has been great. Their rim protection, Derek Lively has stepped up as a rookie. Daniel Gafford has been huge for them. PJ Washington has been one of the best trade acquisitions for anyone this season, I think. And I don't know how many people expected the Mavericks to have this kind of run where they look this good against a team like the Wolves. The Wolves themselves made the run where they swept the Phoenix Suns and took care of business in 7 against the defending champions. So this is 2 good teams, and I don't think many people have expected them to go on this kind of run to look this way, the way they have. Let's just start with the Mavericks, where we of course have both Kyrie and Luka combined for 63 points. And Kyrie was the first player that made this imprint on this game, where in the first half he finished with 24 points of his 30, and where he shot 11 for 14. But what's more impressive is he did entire of his damage inside the arc. He went 11 for 14, and 11 of those makes were inside the arc. And he was just getting to the paint, to the rim, anytime he wanted. Plenty of times it was in transition, early offense with him pushing. There were great times where he just moved without the ball so perfectly into space, getting those open looks. And even when the defense was set, he was attacking Anthony Edwards. He had 2 really good plays where he just took him off the dribble, got inside to the paint, and finished well. He finished first half with a great end one where he just attacked, got downhill, and there was no one that could stop him. And that's the thing about Kyrie. When he's in that scoring mode as a number 2, he is one of the best, deadliest scorers in the league, where he could finish inside the arc however he wants. He has that mid-range, he can get into the paint, especially against this kind of defense. And then we haven't even seen him go off for 3. He only attempted 3 threes in the entire game, because he was just getting whatever the defense was giving him. And that's encouraging for the Mavericks, where you can have your co-star get comfortable, get easy looks like this. We also have Luka being Luka. I don't know how great of a game I would say this was from Luka compared to his standards. He did have a poor shooting game where he shot 3 for 10 from 3. But again, he was doing all of his damage inside the arc with the way the defense was defended him. As you can probably tell with how Stan Van Gundy was talking about the entire game, how he was confused with the drop coverage that he was keep seeing, because he was carving them up. He was taking whatever he wanted in that drop coverage, getting all kind of mid-range shots, particularly in the fourth quarter where he personally went on a 7-0 run, where the offense was just him making tough shots. It was getting whatever he wanted, and it was just tough shot making in Jaden McDaniel's face. And this was the kind of Luka game where you just get used to. By this point, he was just being Luka. And the Wolves did try to switch up the kind of coverages that he was seeing in against Rudy, it was more so in drop, but then it was with him playing higher up, showing against Nasri and Karl-Anthony Towns. It was just more of a show, and whatever coverage he was seeing, he was making good reads. Whether it was getting into the paint, making those looks, making those shots that the defense was giving him, or finding rollers, finding open lobs, and he was just taking it apart. And just looking at their offense in general, it's encouraging from all points. They finished well offensively, shooting only 24% from the floor, from three. And in the first half, they made one single free. They made 1 3 and they had a 125 offensive rating in the first half. And that's mostly pretty much entirely down to them shooting 72% in the inside the arc. They had 44 points inside the paint. A lot of it came down to it when Rudy was off the floor. That's when they made 14 out of 17 shots inside the arc. That dropped when Rudy was off the court, and we'll get to this when talking about the Wolves defense. But the Mavericks were getting whatever they wanted, and their offense was looking good. They were missing open looks. PJ Washington had so many open looks of that pop when their defense was putting 2 on the ball against Luka. He couldn't make them. Luka was missing all his tough shots. He had a couple of open shots as well. But then, just looking at the volume as well, they only had 25 shots out of 87. That's not entirely the Mavericks offense either. But I don't think they were just forced into those looks. They were just taking easy shots that they were given. And they didn't need to be a high 3-point volume shooting team. And if that's the way that the Wolves will defend them, and if that's the way the Mavericks will continue to look, this might be a quick series against the Wolves, unless there are some strong adjustments, because the offense was looking really good. And when it comes to the defense, I think most of it was down to the Wolves playing worse on offense than they should have been. I don't think it was entirely the defense that made them this bad. With some extent, especially when it comes to their shot selection, their higher 3-point rate, where they forced the Wolves into having a 55% 3-point rate, and where they took 49 threes. And they shot 37%. That's respectable, but they still only scored 105 points. And that's where the Wolves defense steps up. They just couldn't get anything going in inside the arc. They went 56% out of the rim. They had 28% of the shots at the rim. They just couldn't make anything. And that's down to Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford being great rim protectors, as they have been all playoffs long. Their paint scoring was good. They only had 19 shots made inside the paint. And that's down to the Mavericks, the Mavericks defense stepping up. That's what we've seen from the Mavericks all playoffs long. That's what they did against the Thunder, where they were packing the paint. They had Garford and Lively roaming around, just protecting the paint. And if this continues, if this is how the Mavericks will play on the defensive end, but especially given how the Wolves' offense isn't entirely a great offense for how they were in for the most part in the season, then again, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a short series. So going with the Wolves, it all starts with Edwards. It all starts with their best player playing much better, because I think this was probably his worst game in the playoffs this year, where he finished with 19 points, shooting 6 for 16. But the big stat that pops out was him going 5 for 12 from 3. Him taking 12 threes out of 16 is a question mark. That just pops out, because that's not his game. That shouldn't be his game. He needs to be attacking more. He needs to be more aggressive, getting downhill, because that's one of the reasons why their offense really relied on 3-point shooting. Because if he's not getting downhill, no one's getting downhill. And the only shot available will be those shots from behind the arc. He did have 8 assists, and I think that's kind of an issue, where he looked more to be a passer than a scorer. There are times throughout his career, even at times in these playoffs, where he should have been looking to pass more rather quickly as well. But this game he overcorrected and went the whole other direction, where he was looking to pass way more often than to score, where he wasn't aggressive, he was wasting clock, just holding the ball only to make a pass. That can't be the Edwards that the Wolves need. And if that continues to be, then I don't see them generating easy points. Because the only points that they were getting that were good looks were coming off transition in early offense. But that's not a good thing to rely on. Because once the defense defense steps up, if you can't run off makes, then the defense will be set, the game will slow down, and I won't trust their offense if Edwards will look the way he did. Because outside of that, I don't think there is much to talk about on offense, because it all starts with Edwards. They're all players playing different, Cat playing different, Jaden McDaniels playing different. It all starts with Edwards being the guy that we saw in Denver, with how he aggressively attacked, was constantly a downhill threat. They just can't have him be a passive 16 shot guy always looking to pass, because then you rely on so much from everyone else, and that's pushing everyone else out of their roles. But then you also had Jaden McDaniels going 24 points on 9 for 15 shots, where he turned into Ray Allen, where he made 6 for 9 threes. If you can get that kind of production from your role players, you need something more from your best player. You also had Mike Conley struggling shooting with only 6 points on 7 shots. Kyle Anderson, I like Kyle Anderson in this game because he made the defense pay with what they were giving him. They were playing off and then he made them pay. He should be more aggressive looking for his shots because there were times where he was just looking to pass only to then realize, oh, he's open. Then he made a shot and then he made them. He went 11 points on 5 for 18 shooting. I also liked with how Naz Reid and Cat attack closeouts a lot. That's how they got so many plenty of drives. And so offensively they were looking good outside of Ant. Everything else was looking good with how they were going. They were feeding Cat a couple of times in the post. That had good process when it comes to the defense sending doubles. He was making good reads out of that. So everything else offensively was looking good. It's just starts with Ant, because I think that's the point where I think it all starts with Ant when it comes to just dropping a 3-point rate, not being entirely 3-point reliant. Surprisingly, I think the biggest concern was the defense, and that may sound weird as considering how they looked all playoffs long, how they won against the Suns, how that defense was key in beating the Denver Nuggets, and somehow in game 1 that defense was an issue. And because I don't think this is an entire different team to scout for. It's different than what they've seen. They haven't seen a guy that is playing like Luka. Covering Jamal Murray and Jokic is different to covering Luka and Kyrie, and that's going to be an issue if this is the looks that they will be getting. 44 points in the paint just can't happen, and losing like this with them being so efficient in the first half when they only made 1 free just isn't going to be a good recipe. They were forcing them into those shots with their drop coverage, and I don't know how effective that can just continue to happen. But then we also saw with Rudy playing up to the level, showing that's how Naz and Cat was playing as well, and that was also getting torched. You had Kyrie playing well against those coverages where he was able to beat those shows, getting to the rim. Then you had Luka just getting to his spots whenever he wanted. If they continue to just play that kind of defense and allow both players to combine for 60 points and miss open looks from 3, then I don't know what else they can do. The adjustments will have to be made to make life tougher for both Luke and Kyrie, and I don't know how else to do that, because Ant was getting gassed covering Kyrie. Kyrie did have a poor second half game where he went 1 for 9. Jaden McDaniels did a pretty good job covering Luka, where in the second half it was a lot of tough shot making. But in the first half, Luka was getting to his spot, getting to the paint with ease and just going for open looks. That drop coverage where he was able to just put Jaden in jail and snake around his way into the paint, that can't be that easy. And Everyone else was staying home, but Luka was just still able to just carve out the defense and get to the paint for easy looks. And one big problem that they have on defense is the non-Rudy minutes. That's going to be a concern going forward because I don't know how they solve it. Without Rudy, they allowed 33 points on 20 possessions, and with him they allowed 75 points on 74 possessions. They were plus 10 with Rudy and minus 13 without. And I don't know what else they can do on defense without him. They allowed 14 for 17 shots inside around the paint area. That's an issue. That's 28 points that you can't have them be that easy. That's 28 points that was basically easy shots at the rim. A lot of the times I think it was Naz Reid being a help defender, just didn't rotate, wasn't contesting well, and both Luke and Kyrie got easy shots there. That will have to change. Their paint defense will have to change, and I think it will continue to be all different kind of coverages to not allow either Luke and Kyrie to see the same kind of looks, to get in that kind of rhythm, and it will just be about forcing them into different kind of shots. And going forward, this will be the difference maker if they win or not. It will be how they defend both Luke and Kyrie, because Lucas was comfortable getting wherever he wanted. Kyrie in that first half was literally getting wherever he wanted and making almost every single shot. They had no answers for them, and right now I can't see the answer on the defensive end. It will be interesting to see how they will adjust, whether they will pressure more, whether it's more. Whether sending more two on the ball. I guess they might play around with the idea of forcing non-Luke and non-Kyrie players to beat them. Have Tim Hardaway Jr. kill you for free. Have PJ Washington kill you for free. But then we also saw that same thing happen with the Thunder, and they did make them play. They were sending so much help inside the arc, overloading on both Kyrie and Luka, and then you had PJ Washington just torching them from free. So it will be interesting to see how they will adjust, because this will be their difference maker. Because offensively, it comes down to Ant being better. I don't think that's an adjustment. It's play better, be more aggressive, get downhill more. Because if Ant just settles for those pull-up shots, and then if there is no downhill threat and have everyone else settle for threes, what happens if they can't make threes then? Because even if they were making threes now, they were still losing. And depending on high variance 3-point shooting, where over half of your shot attempts are for free, it's not a good recipe for offense. So that again just starts with Ant being Ant. If he is Ant the way we've seen him in Phoenix series and against the Denver series, then offensively they have a chance, and it all then goes back to the defense. The Mavericks couldn't ask for a better start. They are 1-0, they took the game on the road, and I feel like they have more answers than questions going forward. Even with the adjustment from the Wolves, even if Ant plays better and everyone else plays better, I still think the Mavericks have the edge right now with solving whatever problems they may have on both ends of the floor. On offense, right now they have many more options to generate points. They have Luke going at Rudy in their drop. If they show more put two on the ball, Luka will cook that as well. They have many more options to go at. They can go at Naz, they can go at Kat, they can go at Rudy, attacking them like this. And there are ways to generate offense. If the Wolves adjust and force them to be make a 3-point shooting team, the Mavericks can do that. We've seen that against the Thunder where PJ Washington cooked them from free, and so they have more answers to their counters. And on defense, same thing. If Ant plays better, is more aggressive, we've seen how good this team is on defense with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford as rim protectors. So again, they just have more answers right now, and it will just be interesting to see how the Wolves continue to solve them.